her mom and her brother and her dad are standing in the driveway. And her mom says, Stephanie, it was so bad. They rated everything. They even took like $7 that was on Ashton's dresser.
I'm sure they did.
And she's like, I don't know if she can talk to you. I said, well, she is. Mm. So she comes outside. And I'm like, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. You know? And she's like, it's so bad. She's like, they took everything. They even took insulin I had in the refrigerator.
Oh, no.
And I was like, insulin in the refrigerator? What do you have? What are you talking about? And she was like, the insulin I had for Gavin Davis here in the refrigerator. And so.
Thank God they did.
And I'm like, look at me. I'm like, look me in the eye, because she would never look you in the eye. And I said, look me in the eye and tell me you don't know what's going on here. And she was like, I have no idea. They had a search warrant. That's all she said.
Did you believe her?
Oh, no, because like, I know something's going down in order for feds just to come and bring flatbeds and bring everything out of your house.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't just happen for no reason.
Yeah. You would know that too, right?
Yeah. And what's bad about that is, as me and Steph are driving back home, I'm like, Natalie sold her Mercedes to one of our friends. And I went, and Steph goes, that's a leased car. I went, yes, it is.
So she sold it when it was under lease?
Yes.
Yes.
And so,
so like, we're calling them up and like, hey, that car that you guys bought is a lease. They're like, no, it's good. They're like, no, it's a lease. And it was.
And they are like, that's why we can't get the title to it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because they've been trying to get the title to it and they couldn't get it. I was like, it's because it's a lease.
That is nuts.
We get in the car and I look at John and I said, she shouldn't have insulin for Gavin Davis. Like, he has a pump. They don't do shots of insulin anymore. It goes through his pump. And so he calls Chris and says something to him about it. And he's like, yeah, she's been telling everybody that.
Wow.
Yeah. And she'd also sold the same people Mike's truck after she took out a $20,000 lien against it.
Wow.
Yeah, so they had to pay that off.
Oh, the people she sold it to?
Yes.
The same people bought the Mercedes.
When she started unraveling, she was just like, screw it. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah, and those are great people right there, too, that she did that to.
Everybody's great people except for her in this. And I'm just like, and this is telling me so much, because I just imagine obviously you're figuring out like, we're probably not going to get our money back. But then these flatbeds start showing up. Insulin starts happening. So how quickly did you start piecing together, like, she may have like murdered Michael?
Well, so I had started suspecting something a little bit before that, because I don't know that I suspected that she murdered him, but things were definitely very odd, because I worked at Med Express, and one of my like best friends was a PA as well. And we worked together. And I had told her and another one of my best friends about the events at the house that day. And right after Michael had passed away, she didn't let us come to the hospital the second time. The first time we went to the hospital.
In November?
Yes.
Yeah. Or the funeral.
You guys couldn't go to the funeral?
You didn't, yeah.
We didn't get to go to the funeral.
Were you told you couldn't go?
Yes.
And it's important to note, COVID wasn't a thing.
No.
Yet. Okay.
No. So, we kept, like, she had a group message with me and John together and was telling us stuff from the hospital. And we would, John wanted to go see Michael, and it would be like, well, visiting hours are such and such time. And then we would get ready to go at visiting hours, and she would say, no, don't come because they're not letting anyone back. So it was like, that was to keep us from coming. Now I know, because after they started investigating, then I knew she was telling stories, like she had told stories like, to Michael's mom, to others, that like, I had been there all day. I had monitored him all day. I had been there twice that day. That was first that I was there all day. Then it was, I had been there twice. so there was a lot of like different stories,
Mhm.
and she knew how Donna was and how I was. And so we would have been at the hospital, like trying to figure out and ask questions
Mhm.
because I kept asking her questions
Yeah.
through text.
Mhm.
Like, and I'm even saying to her in these messages, like, well, I don't really understand what's going on. So he had a seizure, but how are we like now unresponsive on event? Like, what are they doing for the seizures? How are we brain dead now? And then I'm like, why are we moving to hospice? Because he's not in pain. And you know, and he didn't have a head injury
Mhm.
because she told us I asked 3 times at the house and she told me he didn't hit his head.
The first time we heard the head injury was whenever her and Dunlap did an interview on TV. And we were both like,
I was
what
gonna.
in the world? I was
Yeah.
like, where did that come from?
Right.
And like Chris Davis was my first phone call. And I was like, did you just hear this?
And you
Mhm.
know that for a fact, like you heard nothing about a head.
No, I
yeah,
asked her
Yeah, no,
multiple
we were
times.
there. I mean, we're looking at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, no head injury, no
Mhm.
nothing like that.
Right.
I mean,
And-
like I said, I was appalled when I saw that.
Right. And I wanted to make sure, and I tried to say this in court, but you know, he kept objecting
Objection.
to me. I did not examine him,
Mhm.
period,
Right.
at all, because I didn't even have anything on me. I didn't even have a stethoscope.
Mhm.
Right.
I
Just the
was home with
thermometer.
my sick kid trying to work out his Board of Education stuff. So my brain was like totally wrapped around all this stuff going on.
Mhm.
I didn't even take a stethoscope. John was like, bring a thermometer, you know, and it didn't even hit me. Like, it's funny. It's funny. It's not funny, the whole situation, period. But when
No.
he slapped that text message up in court, like the temp of 103, I'm like, I forgot about that text. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it didn't
Sure.
even hit me. And then it's like, she did say that. And then she wanted a thermometer, you know? And
Well, there's just so much. How do you remember all this?
Right.
yeah, and there were so many texts, but we weren't allowed to go to the hospital. Basically, she made it like that. I didn't, you know, when she kept saying like the first time or second time maybe that I talked to the investigator, and he was like, so you weren't there twice. You weren't there for excess. And I was like, no, I swear, maybe 20 minutes is what I thought I was there. So there was an IT guy there, and he's like, oh, we can find this out. You know, so he goes to Google Maps, downloads my
Oh.
timestamps of where I was that day. He
Yeah.
could go back to that date. And he was like, you were there from 1:11 to like 1:39. I was like, 28 minutes,
I
sir.
was wondering how you knew it was 111.
Yes,
Because you said that in
because-
court. You're like, I knew exactly when I was
we got
there.
the timestamps of exactly where I was. And I was exactly where I was that entire day, like
Mhm.
that I had said.